I just got done talking with Aylin Webb of Mind and Mood, and I wanted to just follow up with you, Aylin, in terms of what you do and your background, and what services you provide out there.
Sure. Background, where do I start? I was born and raised in Istanbul and lived in Copenhagen later and came to London about 25 years ago. So I have multicultural background. Now that works really nicely with what I do now, even though in the past I have worked as um, TV producer
Mm.
in Disney Channel, for example, one of them, or Universal Channel, another, and in customer services while I was in Denmark. So I have several lives in
Mm.
different careers, but it was all about preparing for this, where I could help people from
Mm.
all backgrounds and all walks of life uh, break free from
Mm.
anxiety, that worry that might be stopping them from living the life that they want to create. So I help them break free from anxiety, build up confidence, resilience, so they can create the life that they would like, that they desire and deserve.
Excellent. So then, what inspired you to go down this path of helping people through, their everyday challenges and of anxiety and fear and things like that?
It's interesting because I have always, many people say this, I've always been interested in psychology, but
Mm.
being a single mom, I didn't, I have looked into studying that while I was working for many, many years. I looked into it, but it just wouldn't work. Being a mom, working full time, and just being alone is it just didn't work with studying on top of everything. However, coming from Turkey and dancing being one of my huge passions, I started teaching dancing and Middle Eastern dancing, or belly dancing as they call it. And
Mm.
that dancing, I actually had ended up, I was doing that in the evenings, some evenings or weekends, and I ended up having about 150 students, ladies. And we really started a lovely community where we could express, I could help them express themselves, feel relaxed and proud of themselves, no matter what they thought about their body before, feeling in peace with who they are and feeling beautiful. And that then started kind of, I think, setting the seeds. Yeah, I really want to do this. I really want to make people feel more confident, make people feel they can do more. Because there was no difference. The only thing was for them from feeling not so confident and not so good about themselves, it was only dance. And then they all blossomed. They could just stand with their hands up and like, I'm a diva, I dance beautifully. And and they were all backgrounds, housewives, lawyers, uh, MBAs, whatever you name it. We had ladies from all backgrounds, and and I think then I started thinking, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going to actually go into this and study psychology.
Mm.
So, but it was still a step at a time. Well, I'll just see how it goes, and then next year, oh, I'll just see. I'll take the next one and see how it goes. And before I knew it, 8, 9 years had passed, and I had done my postgraduate and my master's, and there I was, a cognitive behavioral therapist. And then I became EMDR therapist, which is trauma-based therapy. So I work a lot with trauma-based anxiety as
Mm.
well. But trauma, I want to just clarify that trauma is not PTSD.
Mm.
They're different. PTSD is when you had life-threatening event, or accident, or you have been in war, and so on. So trauma can be any simple thing that can cause your brain to make a mark. We must remember this was not good for us. And it could be just being humiliated in front of the class. That can be trauma for you, which then can cause in your adulthood anxiety with presentations in front of your colleagues.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of the audience that have listened to my father's story are veterans and have gone through a lot, the Vietnam wartime era, as well as many of the conflicts in more recent times. And so when you work with veterans, what is your approach in terms of helping them heal, or acceptance, or overcoming their mental challenges?
There is usually a lot of shame,
Mm,
right? And guilt.
mm,
Guilt. And that guilt also comes with, because our brain is programmed to keep you safe, and you're not always, when you're in that fight or flight mode, you're not always in the mode of logical thinking. You're on autopilot, and sometimes that can come with guilt of looking back and saying, have I done everything that I should? Could I have done more? Could I have done it better? Or should I have done it differently? That comes a lot of should I have, looking back in the past, living in the past. But also
right.
in the present time, you get a lot of triggers.
Mm,
So we look into those triggers. But as you say, first the acceptance. Okay, what I'm feeling is normal. How I'm feeling, these triggers are normal. It's a part of my brain that is programmed to keep me safe that is causing those triggers.
mm,
Just first we find peace with it. But I use a lot of EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing on these cases.
yeah.
And also looking forward, I always start with, what do you want? And if you got there, what do you want to achieve with our time together, so that we both know where we want to go? So we need to instill that is possible. It is possible. We can live a fulfilling, happy life again. Another thing about, I think, military I'd like to say here is, quite often they have huge expectations from themselves.
Mm.
They are constantly, they're the bar is up here constantly.
Guilty.
Yeah, so that's also one of the things that we deal with, and that comes again with self-acceptance, self-compassion, and self-care, and just learning we are okay as we are, and we are each unique.
Yeah.
It's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so EMDR is one of the therapies that I use a lot with veterans as well.
That's great. So that if someone were to reach out to you, what would they expect in terms of a session, a one-on-one session with you, and talk about the process?
Sure. Firstly, I am all in for empowerment. That's one thing. The second thing is, we don't dwell too much in the past. More than necessary. We look at the history. We need to know who you are, what your beliefs are, what is driving, what's the deeper core beliefs, or what are the core beliefs that are driving the unhelpful behavior. Sometimes, and then there's sometimes some addictions. For example, there could be alcohol we use in order to numb our brain from overthinking. Right.
Yeah.
We use addictions as well. So just being aware of the function of everything. So we just clarify what's going on now. Where are we now? And what kind of things, important life events that cause that. And also, what resources have we got? And where you are, what is it you don't like? Let's clarify. What is it you would like help with? And then we say, okay, so what is it that you want? Where do you want to go? What do you see down the line, 6 months, what was your, let's put it this way, what is your motivation to come here? Because I think that sometimes we just want to talk about it, and talk about it is okay. But I also like keeping my clients focused on where they want to go, because where your focus goes, your energy flows.
That's right.
If you keep focusing on all the bad things, if you keep focusing on all the negative things, you will find them, and it will drain all your energy. So there are always different perspectives. When Dreyer said, when you shift the way you look at the things you look at change.
Excellent. That's right.
So we work on that. We look for evidence for and against some of those beliefs. Where did they come from? Where did you learn that? When was we travel back in timeline as well. When did you learn this? And then we start replacing them.
Excellent.
I hope that explains.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. I'm inspired just hearing, all of the things that you talked about. For an audience out there, and again, the guy, right? The guy who's military or just a guy who, I don't need that therapy. I don't need to talk about my emotion. I keep it in. I'm a man. I got to be strong. Oh, well, how would you talk about that? How do you deal with that?
I love that one. Thank you so much for asking that, actually, because, okay, there are things men were not born with the beliefs that they are the providers, they're the protectors, and that men don't cry. All of these are socially constructed beliefs, right? So often you'll see men trying to avoid talking about emotions, talk about how they feel, or even therapy, because that equals something is not okay with you, and you're weak. Now, vulnerability, a lot of people think vulnerability, weakness, this is all, tangled together, right? Entangled. What I will ask then is the research done some time ago. They asked people, they said, what is vulnerability for you? Can you give some words that will describe vulnerability? And then they asked a group, what is courage? So the words that kept coming about vulnerability were uncertainty. If you're uncertain, you feel vulnerable. If you're taking risks, which then ties up with uncertainty as well, you are feeling vulnerable. And the emotional exposure. As I mentioned, emotional exposure is vulnerability. Then with courage, similar words came out. When you're courageous, well, you're taking risks, right? You don't know, but you're taking risks. And you also are going for uncertainty. You don't know whether you're going to win when you do something courageous, whether it's going to go right for you. You just hope for it and go for it. That's courage. Yeah. And there is some emotional exposure there as well. You are completely exposed when you are being courageous. So I will say, can there be courage without vulnerability, or vulnerability without courage? Perhaps those two words are so much the same than what we think, because we think they're two different things. Oh, yeah, he's so courageous, or she's so courageous, and oh, he's very vulnerable. But hey, you can't be courageous without being vulnerable, or you can't be vulnerable without taking the risk that you will be okay no matter what happens.
Like a left hand and right hand.
Yeah, exactly. I would say that. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why I will tell those who are afraid of vulnerability or feeling vulnerable, that comes with courage.
Mm.
And you can only allow yourself to be vulnerable and to heal if you trust yourself that you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Listen to what's going on inside of you and allow that hurt to heal. You know, only if you allow it out, it will heal. So I would encourage to talk about it. You mentioned your dad. Years and years later, he was actually able to talk about the events.
He was more than comfortable sharing his stories, you know, to his buddies, but in terms of with his own son, he was very discreet, very stoic about that. So
what did that mean for you, I wonder? What did that mean for you, that he wasn't sharing it with his son, with you, but sharing it with
a struggle, because the only way that I found out many of his thinking and his working on this book project of his, you know, many years later after he passed away. And so I didn't get sort of like that father son bonding emotional conversation that I'm striving with my own kids, right? But with him, again, military discipline, old school, seen not heard kind of, you know, mindset. I missed that. I missed that, you know, conversation. So it is what it is. And
it sounds like it was more about him than you. The reason why he didn't share that was more about him than it was about you.
Yeah, I'm leaning in that direction.
With his background, if you think about, there is shared trauma, right? With his mates, with his military friends, they're bonding through the traumas that they have through together. So you're in a more of a similar ground with them, where your son is your in your protection area, right?
Yeah. But I catch myself now, perhaps maybe being over sharing with my kids, being a little too open at times, and but that's another conversation among me, you know.
Let's discuss one day what that means for you. What is oversharing? You know, everything is about stories we tell about ourselves.
Right. You're right. You're right. So I guess the so for those out there that are struggling, you know, and again, a lot of my audience members are vets that I've been sharing this with, and so if you're, you know, if you're going through issues or struggles, PTSD, emotional issues, or guilt, shame, fear, the things that Aylin talked about, Aylin would be a great, you know, provider in terms of somebody to seek and talk and you know, talk all those things out. And so she's an expert at it, highly trained. And I want to talk about the book behind you there in terms of
you were talking
can you
about
share, can you share about the book and the for those that may not be able to reach out to Aylin, but you do one-on-one over Zoom, right? In terms of wherever they are.
I do Zoom one-on-one. I do groups. So yes, I do talks. So this one is, that one is my first book, actually, Perfectly Imperfect. It's more about those high standards that we put upon ourselves, and then we suffer constantly trying to reach those standards, because the bar, every time you reach it, the bar goes higher. So putting our self-worth into things that we do, into our job,
Excellent.
and so on. So that is about that one. And this one is the resilient professional. This one is more about resilience building in work life, but of course also transfers into your private life. Right?
Yeah. Excellent. And both of these are on Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and
Amazon.
links.
Yeah, they're on Amazon. Yes.
I'll have to grab the links from you later on and put it on, yeah, the description. Thank you, Aylin, for the time today and sharing, your background, your story, and again, allowing me to share my father and my family's story with you as well. So,
it's been
an honor for me.
Thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful, and it's wonderful to meet you. And I think this could be lifetime, long distance friendship.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
So thank you so much.